Now, not everybody believes in Jesus Christ. All right, that's the church I was raised in, and whether or not you worship Jesus Christ,
there's a lot of different religions,
but it's pretty broadly acknowledged that he did exist, and he was a flawless human being.
All right.
And what happened to this flawless human being?
Yeah.
He was killed by local government. And most of the people attended. You lucky people, it's Monday, and Talking Racine is back with Mr. George Myers.
Howdy.
There you go. Mr. Jim Spodek, our executive producer, chief researcher. I'm Dr. Ken Jorgen, your host. The pretty face on the panel.
Always got to have one of them.
Yeah. We got a lot to talk about today. Mm-hmm. This is episode 139, folks. We're closing in on 3 years of doing this. And it's been good. I think things have been changing a little bit in town as a result of the work that we're doing here, and we enjoy it, and we know you enjoy watching it because we hear about it all the time. We got several items here. The first of which, and you gave me a little outline here, we both got it. Does God need a conditional use permit in Racine? That is a great question. Well, what if God showed up here? I mean, what would the city put him through before they allowed him to go into business? And and actually, the churches are doing God's business, so...
Well, this comes from something that went on at the council, right?
Exactly.
Recently, where a church is trying to perform some of its functions, which we've got a minister that's actually going to...
Henry's a pastor.
Where do we start on this?
Yeah, we'll just start a little bit with Henry. He talks about the hospitality center downtown in downtown Racine, and there's a conditional use permit that the city of Racine is requiring from this hospitality center, which is associated with the church. And Henry at one time apparently was the director of this hospitality center, and he speaks on it. And they want to extend their hours to 24 hours a day, I guess, to handle homeless. And
he's also currently a minister.
Correct. So
I think at one time they did have extended hours.
I think they did. And of course, that was
a big controversy
because they have homeless people in downtown. That's been an issue back and forth.
Yeah.
And this is now they're going to say, hey, we'd like to have this extended hours to take care of homeless, and of course winter's coming, so I'm sure that's kind of playing into it a little bit.
Well, fire up the clip, Jim.
Let's look at Henry.
The discussion.
Right.
Yeah.
Center is dear to my heart. At one point, a couple of years ago, I was the executive director. It provides a source that the city does not. Even though it was mentioned that the centers provide services, and many of them still do, a lot of the clients that come to the hospitality center actually live around the hospitality center. The churches have tried to do an effort to address it, and I'm always amazed that we put conditions on the church doing church work on their own property. That's always befuddled me. And I've asked why that could even be done, and of course I've gotten the legal answer to it. But I am a pastor of a church too, and I would really be upset if the government tells me you can't serve the homeless in your church.
Feed the homeless, care for them, the destitute.
Right. Now, so he said it right there as a minister.
Those that are ill and infirm.
That's at the council meeting, obviously. So he's made that statement, and it was a fairly long statement that he made. We just got a little excerpt right there. But he talked for a while on the church and its relationship with the homeless and helping people and this type of stuff. Basically, it's more than just going to church on Sunday for an hour and praying.
Right.
You know, there's a lot that the church does all during the week. So
okay, now we've got a question that arose around this whole discussion.
Yeah, the ground has been set for what the church does with regard to the homeless.
Well, we've got a question that was raised by Alderman Sandy Widener, and why don't you go ahead and play that clip?
Comments that were made tonight by some of the aldermen has led me to a question I'd like to ask of the city attorney, and then I do have a couple comments to make. And the question that I have was brought up by the alderman from the 12th district in regards to why are we even having this discussion on the legal restrictions for a church?
Okay, well, that was an interesting question to be raised, and that's where we got the idea. Does God need a conditional use permit in
Absolutely.
Racine? Never
But
needed
why
one
is
before.
a church getting a conditional use permit to do church work? And Henry explained, what it was and what about the First Amendment and the whole role of churches in a community,
Correct.
which can be very
Right.
important.
Well,
And-
let's
Well, then, now,
let's look at the response that the city attorney had to Alderman Widener's question.
okay.
Well, the question is as to the conditional use permit. There's still zoning, there's still the ordinances have to be followed as far as that goes. I'm not entirely sure I understand your question.
Well, my question comes from, a church typically does not come to city government and request to have a conditional use permit. So I'm wondering why in this situation that they would have to.
Well, they're providing services other than the typical church services. I'm sorry, I'm struggling for words. I didn't realize this question was going to come up tonight. It
I
hasn't
didn't
come up-
either.
Hasn't come up on this issue before, so they are providing a different sort of service than somebody coming for a religious service, and our ordinances require.
All right, so there, Henry just explained what the church does, and now the city attorney says that this is outside the normal bounds of a church. In other words, I think the problem is the government right now just doesn't want anything to do with churches. I think the government more and more has taken over the role of churches. I mean, churches for centuries they ran the hospitals, they ran the schools, they took care of the poor. That was their role in society. It was very dominant. But recently, government, as we get more and more into the socialistic type of thing, is saying the church, we don't need the churches. We're going to take care of people. And I think that's what Ledney was saying there. He's saying,
Well, he
this
doesn't
is outside
exactly
the role of
understand. I
church.
mean, he doesn't even know. He has no idea how to answer that question because their role is exactly what they're doing is their role. Why do you need a conditional use permit? That's my argument. If I was the church or the hospitality center in this case, I would say, I'm going to do it. You send the police here and have the homeless kicked out and take me to court. And let's fight about this in a courtroom and see where that goes.
And all you ministers out there, hey, listen to this.
Hospitality center, take it, go to court with it.
See, there's a possibility here. Now, I don't know how frequently you guys attend church. I was raised in a church. I'm not a regular attendee anymore, but I do distinctly remember that if you looked around during the minister's message, there was always a few people sleeping.
Yeah.
And the only thing I can assume here is that maybe Scott Letney fell asleep while Henry was talking.
That could be.
Because he didn't seem to have any clue whatsoever what he had just heard.
Yeah, it was like I would have loved it if there could have been a camera on Henry as Scott Letney is saying this is outside the normal bounds of church activity.
The service. Well, they do the
Henry had to be
service.
jumping through a seat over there. What did I just
God.
say? What did I do? Just talk for 5 minutes on this, and you
Well, in
hear
the
anything I
conditional
said?
use permit, we've argued many times that it's something that really hinders progress and growth and businesses
It needs to
participating in the
have.
community.
You need to have. It needs to be challenged. It needs to be challenged in court, and this is a perfect opportunity to do it. Now they're going to allow certain things to happen. With the hospitality center, it went through. But the fact is, they should have never even had that question. Should have never even come up ever.
And if I was, I would really like to see the hospitality center open 24 hours.
Yeah.
So, all the time. So somebody can be caught out in the middle of the night, and they can still go in there, and there's a place to see people, get warm or whatever, get a little food. And it could really settle some people down.
Well,
That's kind of
particularly in
comforting.
this climate, I mean,
Yeah,
it's not unreasonable at all to have access to that 24 hours a day. I think it's very, very important. Yeah. So, but the question, does God need a conditional use permit? I mean, we've seen what it's done to other businesses, and you guys realize that once you enter the political realm, you have conversations with God. Now, I ran for Congress last fall.
No.
I've had conversations with God, just like all these other guys claim to, and I asked him about these conditional use permits and how it affects his interest in the community of Racine, and I got to tell you, not real interested in coming here.
What God say, huh?
He's not real interested in coming here.
He's not coming to Racine?
Too much red tape.
See what happens?
Too much red tape.
One of the things that came up was that, well, I'll play it. It's Tate questioning Alderman Widener about a vanity vote.
Oh,
yes, he
yeah,
labeled her desire to have a vote on this issue as a vanity vote.
Right. So
No, vanity vote, can I just describe it for you?
Yeah.
Because I didn't know what a vanity vote was, but I found out later from these guys. What it means is that it's kind of like a photo op. In other words, a person's making a statement so they can get their picture in the paper or something like that. Which, when I hear something like that, particularly someone from John Tate, it reminds me of the old Shakespearean quote, "Methinks the Queen, she doth protest too much."
Yeah. Well, my first thought was,
who does all the vanity votes
right.
around here?
Yeah.
It's no less
king
than
of it.
John Tate.
well, let me play it.
Go ahead and
back.
play it, yeah.
Okay.
That's what it comes down to. You're against a thing, and that's okay. Like, we can vote against stuff, and we own it, just like Alder Coe did. I appreciate you for doing that. I respect you for doing that. I think you're wrong, but it's okay. We have to be able to take these principled positions and not try to, stay on both sides of the fence effectively, essentially, by saying I'm against something, but I'm also for it at the same time. Your vote is your final decision, and I get a little bit frustrated when we try and, duck or do these vanity votes, because we know most of this council already believes and supports what's happening at the Hospitality Center, believes in our community, believes in the work that our community is doing to improve its community, and knows that a no vote really isn't going to change the overall outcome. But it's a vanity project.
Well, that was great.
Sandy, is just, I think the problem is Tate's is twofold. If I can just evaluate for you a minute, John. One is that Sandy keeps coming up with these cogent questions. I watched that from home. Watched that whole council meeting, and I'm not expecting her to talk or anything. And all of a sudden, she comes up with this really interesting question, which we're addressing now. She didn't say, does God need a conditional permit? But she asked, does the church need it? And what a great question. I mean,
What's
so
never been
fundamental.
required before.
No. Well, the point is that Sandy is so deep, in this knowledge and what's going on in the council, and someone like Tate's over there probably a little jealous of it, and all the little speeches he gives are, he's doing basically to get in the paper.
Yeah,
and then you got somebody like Letney who just wants to be in charge of everything.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's quite the show. It's like a Saturday Night Live skit. That goes on there.
It was amazing that he would make a statement like that, and I can see two reasons for him to do it. One is because he's protesting things that he does, and the other is that Sandy keeps coming up with this good stuff all the time. It's just amazing how she looks into things and understands what's going on.
Well, I'll give you an interesting perspective on religion. At least I feel it is. Now, not everybody believes in Jesus Christ. All right, that's the church I was raised in, and whether or not you worship Jesus Christ,
there's a lot of different religions,
but it's pretty broadly acknowledged that he did exist, and he was a flawless human being.
All right.
And what happened to this flawless human being?
Yeah.
He was killed by local government. And most of the people attended.
It's the truth. The truth hurts, man. And there it is on display.
If I was him, I wouldn't be real anxious for the second coming, quite honestly. All right, well, let's move on. Listen, I don't mean to be disrespectful of anyone's religion. I just, some of these things just absolutely amaze me, the way they play out. Meanwhile, second item on the agenda here. Where did the $900,000 that the city, well, that was not actually an accidental pronunciation. Where did the $900,000 the city allocated for jobs go? We talked about this on episode 65.
Well, when I read in the paper,
out.
I looked at it and I thought, wait a second, that's kind of old, isn't it?
Yeah, isn't that cut and dry?
Yeah, that was episode 65.
This is an issue way back, and how long ago was it?
That was over a year ago. Episode 65, we talked about it. We talked about the $900,000 that was allocated for jobs. If you remember, that was Shannon Powell was hired, sent a slid into the city.
That's right. That was part of the thing. Money went to CDBG, over to Racine County Economic Development Corporation to kind of help over there.
Now,
and
what
then
I want to
eventually
do
over.
is I'm going to play a clip from episode 65.
Oh, yeah, we don't need to explain it
Yeah, and then we'll
again.
come back because the 275,000 that went to REDC, the 125,000 that went to the attorney. I mean, all that we had early on, and we said we'll come back and come with the numbers of actually what happened. But I'm going to play 65, and then we'll come back.
Yeah,
and
but go ahead.
discuss.
I just want to give people a date on that. That took place in March of 2018.
Okay, March of 2018. Okay.
Requesting that intergovernmental funds in the allocation of $900,000 to the following: $125,000 to the city attorney's office for development and real estate related work, $275,000 to RCEDC for consulting services related to economic development, $500,000 to RCEDC to contract for worker training services to the city residents to prepare for construction-related jobs coming to the area.
All right, there you saw the beginning, 900,000 now, 5,000, I'm sorry, to the city attorney, and that's for legal work, all right? So we're putting bureaucrats to work. And then RCEDC for administrative consulting services, more, you know.
275,000.
And then the next one is going to be 500,000 for actually worker training. So the point is, we've got built into this 900,000, almost half of it is going to be oversight. You know, in other words,
Right.
It's
exactly what it is.
It's people sitting at the office and
George, I go to
and-
these meetings, I see it over and over, the community block grant money and all the rest. All I see is shirts and ties, and you know, I'm thinking everybody in here
Nice
is making
cars parked out front.
Everybody's
Yeah.
making a nice wage here, except where this money was supposed to go to. It seems like everybody else has filtered it off and got their thumb in the pie.
Everyone will be at the table, as it was mentioned before, that, this one of the speakers, they will be involved. Everyone will be at the table.
I don't know. It probably didn't get through that hat that he's wearing.
Well, that's a Boy Scout hat. He's campaigning now. Remember, he had a Boy Scout troop. 50
I thought
years
it was
ago.
illegal to campaign at the
It
city
is.
hall.
Apparently, listen, George, nothing, everything's free for all here in Racine. There's no against the law. What the hell?
They announced it right at the beginning. You're not campaigning.
He's wearing his Boy Scout hat because he can talk about his Boy
It's
Scout.
subliminal campaign.
RCEDC, there was a question as what they will do. We'll have a development of a memorandum of understanding / contract. There will be quarterly update. Currently, there's about $3.1 million in the in cash in the funds, and if this proposed grant will go through, we anticipate by the end of 2018 that we'll have $2.74 million running by the end of calendar year.
Now there you got bureaucratic arithmetic.
Yeah.
We're going to start with 3.1 million now. We're going to take 900,000 out, and then we'll be left with 2.74 million.
That's subliminal calculation. That means it's coming into the back of your head. You're not really paying close attention, but when you get down to the final figure, that
It sure
seems all
sounds
right.
good. Well, that didn't cost
Started out with
us
3.1, and we're going to end up with 2.74. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
All may or may not know that there's a situation happening at the state where there's possibilities that there'll be penalties for elected officials helping out their community. And some of those penalties that apply will be a Class A misdemeanor, which can fine you $10,000 or more and can imprison you for not to exceed 9 months.
It's got to be used the way it was intended to be used, and if you don't do it,
if you could be 9 months in jail, a misdemeanor. This is some serious stuff here. Are you kidding me? You guys blew multi-millions of dollars on Machinery Row.
Yeah.
No problem there. You put up a straw man. You did all this, no problem. But now, if those funds are misappropriated on how we're going to distribute them, we could be going to, this is some serious stuff.
Well,
Right,
it's kind of a left-handed way of saying, we got to spend this money or we're going to go to jail. March of 2018, we're now in September of 2019, and that is one interesting fact here. That's 5 quarters of time.
Right.
They divide the year up into quarters.
Right.
One of the caveats of the motion's passage was that the City Finance and Personnel Committee was to receive quarterly updates, so there should have been 5 of them on how the funds were being spent. But up until last week, August 26th, the Council has received only 2 generic updates from Racine County Economic Development Corporation.
Right.
But we do have a breakdown on where a lot of the money has gone over the year and a half. $900,000.
900 grand.
Right.
Yeah. Well, things like
Let's
100.
put that in perspective. The city is short.
It's almost $1 million.
Yeah, $4.7 million in the budget. They're short that this upcoming budget. So let's just take that into perspective. A year ago, you had $900,000 in the fund that basically got used inappropriately. So,
Well, we say. I mean, they say this was a good use of funds. $125,000 to the city attorney's office for development and real estate related work.
it went completely
I
for.
don't know what that's got to do with
Yeah.
jobs training, but I don't get paid as much as a city attorney, so I'm sure he's got some justification.
That was
for that.
$125,000 paid for just plain old bills that came.
It just
into
went to the
city.
city attorney's office.
Right.
Let's just
Bottom
face it.
line.
Yeah.
$275,000 to RCEDC, Racine County Economic Development Corporation, for consulting services
Right.
related to economic development. Could include communications, planning, smart city design, transit, and working with the private sector.
Again, $275,000 for consulting, $120,000 for smart cities, $120,000 for smart city consulting, and then it was other various things that are consulting. So $275,000.
Basically, people Susan ties sitting at desks.
Exactly.
Got nothing to do with being out on the job or training
Nobody
people
training
to
a person
weld
how to
or
weld,
paint
exactly.
or whatever they're going to do.
Right.
Yeah, well,
400,000 went for the actual jobs. And how did that break down?
Well, if you look at it was spent $900,000.
Yep.
That's what it went for. That's $64,000 for the jobs. There were
Yeah.
14 jobs that ultimately came about. So,
So you
there were
had 14
77
jobs.
people at least kind of got started in the program, but the end result was 14 jobs.
And and two of them were jobs that they already had. They already had their job. They
were just
remained
brushing
in
them
there.
up.
Yeah, they
Polishing them
brushed
up a little bit.
77 participants, 14 completed the program and were employed. 2 were in jobs that they already had.
Yeah.
So that's a dozen people
Well,
for $900,000.
you know what? In Foxconn, I think it was $275,000 for jobs. So actually, Racine did a pretty good job.
Yeah, this
You
is
know, they only lost
Only
64,000.
64,000, huh?
this is lean and mean here, folks. Lean and mean.
Unbelievable.
Trust the government to spend your money wisely.
Yeah.
And this was when we called this out early. You know, this 900,000. We knew right away it was a.
Well, the whole thing was just
was a
so
scam.
scammy.
It was a scam.
It
And it turned into a scam, and it is a scam. And you know, for QA in his Boy Scout hat to say we're going to be getting quarterly reports, I knew right away that was all BS.
QA didn't even want to be at that meeting. He
No.
said, he was looking for days off. He
Yeah.
didn't want to be talking to people there.
All we're doing is sitting in meetings talking.
Yeah.
Well, that's what you get
No,
paid
that's
for.
about it, yeah.
That's why they call it public service, not public
Okay.
employment. Oh, man. Anyway, that's the update on the $900,000. Now we've got another one coming up here on the North Beach development. Sweetening the pot. The North Beach development, that's taking place over at the old Walker manufacturing site.
Right.
Down there next to the water treatment plant. Water treatment plant. Sewers over on the south side, water's on the north side. It's a good idea to keep them apart. So
Well-
what are they doing to sweeten the pot there? They've amended the North
Why are
Beach
they
agreement.
sweetening the pot?
Exactly.
They had a deal.
Right.
They were going
Yeah.
to come in and develop it. Everybody agreed to it, and all of a sudden we come back and we have to redo it. We have to sweeten the pot. I mean, and some of them, I mean, they make not that they don't make sense. You know, I'm not arguing with that. They dropped the price of the land by $1 million. So
Right.
it puts $1 million back into the pocket of the developer. He was going to get some money. They were redeveloping a sewer, but it would affect other properties around where this sewer development went. So rather than this developer paying for all of it for all the other people who were going to benefit from it, they said, okay, whatever we get from these new developers, we'll give to you.
Right. So the
These
developer's
other
basically making more than $1 million on this amendments to the contract, and the closing date now is for the end of October. So yeah, there's some definite changes, but here's the bottom line: is why? Why is it needed to make these amendments to these changes, who they came in and agreed upon originally, if you remember? So why are we
Yeah.
making those changes?
Yeah. So, something went in there to screw up the deal.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
my guess is that the city is requiring more
probably require more. Yeah, what we've seen from some other deals, which we're going to be getting into the future. We're looking into this, but the mayor or somebody just comes in and says, "Well, we have all these other things we want you to, as you do this development, we want you to do these things too."
All right, here's my question. Do you think these things are actually going to happen? I mean, I know a little bit about developing, and when they get to this point where you're almost desperation, here's $1 million. Here's some more money.
Does this remind you of anything else that's happened in this town?
Yeah, this is exactly machinery row. You
Yeah.
can see it, you can smell it. The only thing is, this one here, they actually have a developer. Before it was no developer. They actually have a developer here. And again, you have to go back to the fact that you have to get financing. And I mean, they had a long list of reasons why we had to make this adjustment. Tariffs in China, the economy slowing, all these other things.
Higher than expected contamination.
Yeah, I mean, you can say anything you want to justify giving back this or, kicking back some money to them, but it's desperation on a deal that looks like it's going south.
And as I recall from the discussion at the council meeting, it was just the last council meeting, it had to be done right now.
Yeah. So there's a
well, that before,
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about that.
Yeah.
They always want that sense of urgency in there when they come in and have a council vote, and it's got to be done today. Otherwise, it's really going to cost us a lot of money.
yeah.
This will only be like $1 million or $2 million, but if we wait another 10 minutes, it'll be $100 million.
But how hard is it to get it past the common council? You could dang near say anything, and they're going to just vote for it. This is the way you vote. Okay, nobody questions. I mean, zero questioning. If you didn't have a couple of maybe you've got.
I'm starting to believe you have no respect for the city council.
I really don't. I mean, I look at them and I'm thinking, has anybody asked a question? It just seems to me there should be a couple questions, even if they're not the brightest questions. Ask a question.
Well, now in this particular one on these things, there was someone asking questions.
Yeah.
Who might have that?
Guess who would that be?
Exactly.
I figured it out. Some dumb blonde someplace. I guess.
No,
Sandy, as usual, had studied it, had some understanding about it, and could ask questions about it. And she asked really good questions about it.
What did we tell her last week? 1, 2, 3. Shut up!
What is she going to learn?
Yeah, my God. I mean, the hierarchy down at City Hall has been trying to shut her up for years, and we have yet to find a question that she's asked or an issue that she has raised, which isn't important.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
It's just amazing. There's a lot of questionable things going on down there, and at least there's one council person that's a council lady, whatever you want to call her, that's on top
stays
of
aware
it,
of the issues and asks
brings it
questions.
up,
Yeah.
ask questions.
Okay, so
So what?
now
What do you mean so?
Well, now you have the city administrator.
Oh,
who
the
now,
final item on our agenda here today.
Well, it all fits like a glove together.
Yes, it does.
Because why are these deals? He's out pumping the hell out of these deals. Let's get these deals to the table. Let's get it. Let's get something in the hopper. Let's get it going. Just had a article that he emailed, and he had some.
It was in the paper. Yeah,
it was in the JT.
they cover that. He says he's still job hunting.
Yep.
Says the structure here isn't well suited to my skill sets. Why didn't he bring that up a couple of years ago when he was talking to Dickert? I mean, didn't he know what the city was all about? I don't think he really knew what the city was all about. In his defense, I don't think
he's the worst administrator. I mean, certainly one of the better administrators I think we've had.
He's only the second one.
No, we've had there was Ben Hughes,
Friedel.
there was Friedel, and then
Palahniuk, yeah.
Yeah, Palahniuk. So I think
So
he's the
three.
third. Yeah, and,
Okay.
and Hughes, I don't know. I mean, young
Well,
guy.
I can understand his frustration. I'm not exactly. I mean, I'd rather we not have a city administrator. But the point is he would set up these deals. He'd have, like this North Beach project and these various other things. Projects come through, and the company's coming in, and all of a sudden somebody throws a whole bunch of salt on it, and just says, "Oh, we got all these other things we want to accomplish too with this deal." And that would be very frustrating. And all of a sudden, you're turning around and you're making millions of dollars worth of deals, things to sweeten the pot, so to speak. And he probably just gotten tired of it.
Well, he's kind of been cut off at the knees a couple of times. But, and speaking honestly, if you want to speak honestly, I think he was really brought in here to promote
that's how
that
he got
arena
his job.
project.
That's
Right.
right.
I did the arena here. I can do the arena there. So we're going to bring you in. Now the same thing here. He needs some deals here so he can go to the next job and say, "Hey, I brought in this big development into Racine. I was the one that brought this whole huge 200 units plus in." What are you going to go to the job and say? I've been at Racine and man, it was a total disaster. Oh, but give me a job anyway. He's at the end of the line of his career. I mean, he needs these. And my guess is you've got Corey Mason who wants to be the king, and then you've got the city administrator who
is supposed to be doing and accomplishing things.
Some of these things should be done. And of course, Corey's throwing stuff on there. Oh, we want this, I want this, I want this. Makes it more difficult to close these deals. He's thinking about his career. I mean, hell, nobody's thinking about the damn taxpayer. He's last on the list. F-word, just keep paying over here.
Yeah, they think about it when they need more money.
Yeah,
Just another $1 million.
So I mean, I think that's really the game that's being played here.
I don't disagree with you at all. I think that's exactly how it's playing out.
That's a very good scenario at any rate. It's right now it's the most obvious one. Whether it's the correct one or not, we won't know until we.
Well, it'll be interesting to watch unfold.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll see if this project down at the lake at North Beach actually goes through, actually happens, and actually becomes something successful.
Well, you've got a couple other ones that are that hotel on the lake down by Festival Hall. I don't know where that one's at. Then there's a couple developments.
Well, you got the one that's underneath the 6th Street Bridge there.
Yeah, that's another one.
There's a big development. The waterworks.
Now that's probably
that's a private development, though. I mean, that
guy is
really involved
coming in with money in it. I mean,
we haven't had to throw a lot of tax dollars at that.
Not yet. I mean, so far so good. So
well, you've got some requirements though in the development thrown into there. And well, we're going to see what they're going to do with that.
Yeah.
You've got the one the Racine Bible Church. Remember that was a big development that fell through. So
teetering on.
I knew it as a Racine Bible Church. Yeah. By the time I got here, it was pretty empty at the time. I don't know if that was the one.
Keep an eye on us because we're keeping an eye on them. So thanks for being here. We'll see you next Monday for episode 140. Have a good week.